Welcome to For the Record, an unfiltered view on current trends and timeless advice for surviving in the aesthetics industry. Whether you're an injector, practice owner, sales rep, or marketer, it's time to set the record straight. Each week we cut through the chaos and showcase diverse perspectives and winning ideas from the best minds in the industry. I'm your host, Dr. Tiphany Hall, Chief Growth Officer at Aesthetic Record. Now, let's get started on this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of For the Record. And today we're taking things to North Carolina with a physician associate of 20 plus years, starting in emergency medicine, then dermatology, and now firmly planted in aesthetics for the last 17 years. She is an Allergan trainer, a private trainer, has built a really interesting business to Curated Aesthetic, focusing on empowering others, giving them confidence, giving them acceptance of themselves and what they came in to have done, making sure it's a safe space for them, that they feel really great about their outcomes, and really doing things differently, both physically and emotionally for her patients. I think bred from a personal story of her own, but has built a beautiful practice that's been successful really from day one and has done some really great things to empower others, including coming very soon, a podcast that she's launching and also a training program. So both of those we'll talk about today to see how to get more of her magic in your practice. I'm thrilled to welcome today English Black, PA, the owner and founder of Curated Aesthetic. So welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time.
Well, I love your name, by the way. I was just telling our production guy, English Black. You could be president or a queen or something. I don't know, something really important, but you've got such a memorable name. It's so cool. It's like I knew you years ago because I knew your name because it just stuck out in my head. So I think that's a really cool thing.
Cool.
Just as a side note, I'm PH, so I always notice, a name that stands out. But you've done some really cool stuff. I think your practice is thriving, like I said, really from day one. I think from year one, you're profitable, you were making money, which no one does English. You are an N of one in that case. But you came from a long line of medicine, doing things, emergency medicine, all the way through to aesthetics. So give us an idea of kind of your background and how you got here to aesthetics today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, thanks for the name. It was tough growing up in the 80s with English because there were not unusual names back then. I used to want to change my name to Anne or Carol, but it's worked out. It's great now. So, and the PH and Tiphany, it's unique, right?
It's tough. People don't know how Philadelphia telephone, I have to do, much like you, I'm sure I have to do the whole thing. Like, have you ever heard of Philadelphia? It's a city. Yes, it's a whole thing.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, my history in medicine goes way, way back. I mean, from the time I graduated high school, my mom got me a job subbing in for an MA for a plastic surgeon, where I got to chaperone his consults. And I mean, I was just a wee babe, and he taught me how to remove sutures and out of, from blephs. I mean, and I think now, and I'm like, man, that guy had so much trust for me, for these delicate areas. But that job really shaped what I do. So in fact, that impression kind of left me pretty anti-aesthetics because I'd watch him give these consult. I had a woman in particular that stands out. She came in for a consult for a breast lift, and he did the whole thing. We did the exam, explained the surgery that she would have to have her breast lift and or implants. And then at the end, he's like, by the way, your chin's recessed. You could really use some volume there. And while you're asleep, we can do that for you and save you some money. And she just sat there and touched her chin, and I could see her deflate a little bit. And she's like, wow, I didn't know I needed a chin. And I was like, the energy in the room changed. And my spunky 18-year-old self, I thought, well, who is he to tell her what she needs in her chin? And of course, we know where that's coming from now. But that shaped everything. So I started my career in, pre-PA, I was in dermatology as a medical assistant for a few years and worked with some bad A dermatologists and medical assistants that were like, English are crazy if you don't go into dermatology. And I thought, well, maybe, but so I started out in the ER to give myself a little professional residency in primary care and really loved the medicine, but hated the politics and bureaucracy, and that was frustrating. But also I have asthma, was sick a lot. So I got back into dermatology, and I was fortunate. A dermatologist was going on maternity leave and needed somebody to run her practice. So I worked 2 jobs in some few character building years. I'd go to the derm job in the morning and then to the ER at night. And we liked each other so much I stayed on. And that was like the beginning of this snowball effect of practicing medical derm and then peppering in the Botox and then peppering in the lasers. And I finally was offered a job in only aesthetics 12 years into my career after having a baby. And I thought, well, it's not really what I want to do, but maybe they'll switch me over to medical aesthetics. But that's really where I found my niche, is in Chapel Hill. At the time, it was the highest per capita PhD per household. And you have all these intelligent women, academics, CEOs, that just wanted to be treated the same, that were maturing and felt the energy different in their boardroom meetings, in their classrooms, in all their meetings. And I was like, I can sign up for this. I can fight the good fight with these women to help them honor who they are, and how they want to show up in life.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I feel like, well, first of all, Kaylee Lindham said that you were the girl's girl and that you were really the bee's knees in her podcast, just talking about what you give people and the energy that you bring to your treatment room and just how you make them feel empowered. And it's interesting that you say about your PhDs, because I think this is really important in our industry. Women who tend to come to aesthetics are very powerful in their personal life, right? Many of them they run businesses, they are in charge of things. We're tired, English. I don't want to make any more decisions all day long. Like, I'm done making decisions at, whenever time I finish for the day, which could be very, very late, to go somewhere and say, I'm going to give you my power and give it away to you. I'm in charge of everything all the time, but right now in this moment, I don't want to be. I'm going to let you be in charge for me, and have that trust with someone who is probably a high D, dominant personality, a red on the Berkman, all the things. That's a huge responsibility for you, first of all, to take that on and and kind of own that, like an empath, kind of own that energy, but also for them to trust you enough to keep coming back and doing it over and over again. So I think it's an incredible way to build a business, and people don't give that away. And if they do, they tell all their friends, everyone that they know, hey, you got to go see my girl, because when you're there, she just takes care of everything for you. I think that's such a blessing. And I'm sure for women who are working and who are crazy, like, what a gift to them to let you just take it on, and they can just dump their baggage at your feet and let you pick it up and run with it.
100%. And I love Kaylee. Her program has helped me so much in my own, owning a business is a mirror. And helping me to do that, to look at my own stuff, has only leveled up that energy to the nth degree. And you're exactly right. These women, they want to be seen, and they want to know that there's a backup plan. They want to not feel cut down, because they are used to being in charge, and they don't want to feel stupid for having an opinion about what it is that they need or don't need. And I love that. And I found that leaning in to listening, to presence, and, working through these things actually makes it easier for them to open up. So when they come in afraid that they're going to look distorted or whatever it is, they need that time to learn about you, learn about themselves and what their actual goals are, because we can't help them meet their goals if they don't know what they are. And a lot of times that starts with, I feel like I look tired. I feel like I look sad. It's not for the line here or the line here, right?
Well, I think looking at you, it's instantly apparent that you are doing excellent work. Whoever's doing your work is doing a great job. I think you're nearing 50, I believe I read, and you look amazing. That's a big part of it too, is I think you've got to look the part, right? If you look like a crazy person, which if you've gone to an aesthetics conference in the last 10 years, like, hello, even us here at Aesthetic Next, we see it. But if you look like a crazy person, your patients are going to get the idea that that's what you believe is a good aesthetic, which is very, very scary. That's but you look very North Carolina, very natural, very youthful, chic, all the things that you'd want in your injector. Of course, I'm very Texas. We couldn't be more opposite today, English. I've got big Texas hair.
I love the hair. I want that hair. I would have it if I could, but this is what I was dealt with.
Well, you and I both are in hot climates, so when we both have long hair, it's rough out here. But I do think that you're like a walking billboard for your practice. But I do think what you mentioned there about they're coming in, they're very, very intelligent. I want to know how you do that with these people, because I think part of the giving away the power is they're very smart. You've got to credential yourself and be on their level. They've got to believe that you are as good at your craft as they are at their craft, and they get all day to talk about it, right? They get to meet people for months and months and years and get to explain how great they are. You have that finite consultation window. How do you teach your staff to also do that, to credential the business, but how do you do it to convey that you are the expert in the room?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, I believe it starts very simply, actually. You can't do any of these other things without setting a standard. And the standard is everybody needs a follow-up, period. If they have a new treatment, whether it's a first-time Botox, a first-time filler, the lasers, they don't get a follow-up till the end, because we know that they need a series of those. We don't want to micromanage and pick apart every single result from a laser perspective. But in my mind, if you're an injector and you aren't doing those 2-week follow-ups for tox, 3 to 4 week follow-ups for filler, the problem is your patient may not see the value in what you're delivering. They forget. It's like trying to remember your baby as an infant. You can't do it. You can see pictures of them, but you can't, all you can think of when you think of them is where they are right now. Same thing for our patients. They have to see that proof. So you get 2 benefits from that. Yes, it takes up your time, but your patients are going to see the results you delivered. And if you didn't deliver the result, you get feedback that you desperately need to be able to do better the next time and or adjust the dose, because this is such a visual specialty. And if you don't have that feedback, you're kind of in trouble. And that also, I would say 75% of the time when patients come in doubting, when they see that evidence, it evaporates. It evaporates. And, unless it wasn't there, and then it's like, well, crap, now what do we do? That doesn't happen a whole lot anymore, but it did in the beginning. You treat a smoker or somebody that's been out in the sun a lot, and that there's definitely a learning curve to that. Now, the other thing is that I probably spend a lot more time in a consultation with most people, and I'd like to do it all on the front end. So I feel like if we prepare people for the unexpected, then they don't go somewhere else after the fact and read, oh my gosh, well, she didn't tell me I could be blinded from filler. Oh my gosh, well, she didn't tell me I could get an eyelid droop. And they feel like somehow we're kind of gatekeeping when we all know we're very busy, we're pushed for time, and it has nothing to do for that. We're just doing the best we can with what we've got. So my promise to myself when I opened, so I didn't feel stressed about it and I could share whatever we needed to, was I book an hour for 45 minutes to an hour for a new patient consult, depending, and or if it's just Botox, I do a 30-minute visit. So the time, the follow-ups, and as far as the credentialing goes, I think that speaks for being conversational with patients and listening. I love the analogy of imagining that you and your patient are on stage, and you want your patient to be the star of the show. So the spotlight is on whoever's talking. And if the spotlight is on you the whole time, well, then you're the star. We don't want us to, it seems like we should be the star of the show, but they are. They are. And when we make them the star of the show, that fosters trust because they know we're listening, we hear, and even it's helpful to regurgitate whatever it is that they're feeling and to ask deeper questions. Well, I feel like I look tired. Well, what is it that makes you feel like you look tired? It's actually using our emotional intelligence of getting to know someone and really peeling back the layers of an onion, so to speak, to get to the root of why someone is here for us. Because, they may think it's their, under eyes that make them look tired when really they need cheek filler. Or, it might, when they say, I feel like I look tired, they're just talking about their frown lines. And we may go and give them this $10,000 quote for something that, to meet their immediate goal, that was unnecessary. And then they're overwhelmed.
Or they just feel tired and they're projecting it to be a look, and really it's like they just feel tired. I mean, that's me. I'm like, when I feel tired, everything looks terrible. If I'm worn out or I'm dazed and confused, the whole world looks like, it's a sort of a not body dysmorphia, but in a sense, everything about you is just sort of skewed. So I think knowing when your patient's in that state and being able to say, you know what, maybe today is not the day that we spend the $10,000. Let's just do this and wait and see if in a week you feel better. I think that's so important.
Oh my gosh. Yes. You were speaking my language. I love sleep. I love to talk about it. I mean, I say I love sleep and I'm a terrible napper. My whole life, but I understand the power of it. And I love that you say that because when I have patients come in, it's usually the ones that are the most nervous that end up being the biggest fans. And that, I believe, is because if they have a shred of doubt, it's like, look, let's not do this today. You really need to feel good about this. We give them agency. We give them buy-in. So it's not like we made all the decisions and they were like, okay, I'll spend it if you do it. We've helped them understand what we're doing and you want in or not.
Well, and if you think about other sales jobs, let's just take off our aesthetic clinic hat. If you think about a car dealership or even in plastic surgery, let's say, you rarely see a person buy that day. No one walks into the dealership and test drive the first car and says, well, here's $45,000. I love it. They're going to ask questions. They want to sit down. I think we are remiss to think that a patient in 2025 who is as educated as we are now, hello, TikTok, I mean, those of you who go down the rabbit hole and all the places that you can go get information, they want to come do their homework first. And I think it's okay to say, I'm going to go to English and get a consultation, and I may go to Jane, and I may go to Frank.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to English, but I'm going to go at least feel like I've done my due diligence to find out what's out there before I owe it to myself before I commit. And I think we get upset that people don't convert, but they will convert. There's like a halo effect of like a 30-day window there that as long as someone comes back within a certain amount of time, the investment of time for me to do the consult is worth it because the ROI long-term is great. So I think we kind of get in this disillusioned mentality of they've got to get the consult today and they got to get treated today. Well, first of all, if you want to do a whole plan, you can't do all that in your hour because you're using it for the consult. So I think that we've got to take a step back and say, patients, I love your word, they have to have agency. They've got to be able to say on their own, I really enjoyed this. I think you have a great recommendation, but I do need to do 2 more different visits before I buy your house. Yeah. I need to go look at 2 more houses. I just think it's not that unusual. We make it seem here like it's an illness if they have to, go ask their husband or whatever. We make a big TikTok about it and Instagram memes, but that's just reality. People don't make decisions on their own in the very first second that they see you. So I love that you said let them go figure it out and come back, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, 100%. And actually what we are wanting for our patients, we actually have to have for ourselves. And it takes that level of confidence to be able to say, hey, I encourage you to go get some other opinions or insight. And I'll be honest, sometimes I'll throw in there, look, I think my results are the best in the area, but I might not be the girl for you, and there might be something that just doesn't mesh, and that's okay. We're okay. We're all adults here, and, yeah, leaning into that. And it does take the time and the planning, and they appreciate that. They appreciate the not being rushed. And frankly, it's a flag if there's a lot of pressure to get a lot done on a first visit. I actually get a little heebie-jeebie when people schedule a first-time filler and I've never met them. I want to get to know them first.
Well, so this is where I think the consultation and what you're doing is so critical. To me, it's a competitive differentiator. So if I go to you for an hour, we had this really thorough consultation, and I feel like I know what your plan is, we're aligned, our values are the same, we're good to go. Then I go down the street, to Joe or to Frank, whoever, and there's this 15 minutes in and out, pressure to get the toxin done today or the lips done today. I go to Jane, very similar. Maybe hers is 30 minutes. Maybe she's nicer and more involved, but still, she's got quota, right? She's got quota to hit. At the end of the day, I'm looking at all these saying, you all 3 have amazing before and afters. You all 3 have great work. You all 3 have the skill set, the credentials, the education. But gosh, didn't I feel much better when I got everything explained to me, a thorough analysis of me, my psyche, my emotional state, what I want my goals to be. At some point, you're only as good as a consultation because everyone's skills now are leveling up. And if you're all the same skill set, all that differentiates you is that like core value part of your business. And I think we don't put enough emphasis in the fact that the consultation could be that make or break. You can be the best injector on planet Earth and have no patience. And we see that every day. And I think what you're doing is like kind of putting it on its head to say, I've already got the skills. I'm really good at what I do, but let me make you feel like you belong here and that you're the star of the show. Those of you who know me know that I love storyteller brands. That's Donald Miller's whole entire mantra.
I do too.
It's like in my heart. You're speaking to my heart. English. I love it. I love that model. It's so good.
Thank you. Yeah, we're talking what you're saying, and this is the whole model behind the coaching program that I'm launching called the Empowered Injector, is we are turning these experiences from transactional visits to transformational, and yes, people have, we have things all over the Instagrams, the internets about people seeing photos and crying, but these people legit come in. I've had people grab me. I have had people cry. And it wasn't because they saw the before and after. It's because they opened up about why they wanted it, what they needed, and then they got it. That's power. And that's what we want for them. We want them to feel better walking out the door. Not like one of my patients that came in once and said, when she's like, well, what do you see? What do I need? And I'm like, well, that's actually not how we do things here. Let's start with you. What are you seeing? And why do you feel tired? Going through that list of deep questions we mentioned. And she's like, that's interesting. Because the last place I went, I sat down and the guy spent about 15 minutes with me, told me I needed to spend $10,000 to be pretty. And I left there feeling ugly. And, it's, again, to your point, he did what his job. It's not that he didn't do the assessment and what all might have been needed for an ideal result, but it didn't give her the end result, which was to feel more confident, right?
And I think you have to ask permission. So we have a person that works here for AR who's drop dead gorgeous, like beautiful. We're at Am Spa last year, and one of the injectors comes up to her and says something about her double chin. I mean, by the way, she's very, very thin and gorgeous. You should get rid of this little double chin that you have. We'll put something in there. Like, you would never see her and ever think in any of your wildest dreams that she needed to have anything done except maybe like a little lip, or a little cheek pop, something like fun. Yep. And we talk about it here today, like still, we teach our new hires about this, that you've got to ask permission from someone to be able to tell them what you think are their flaws. Whatever verbiage you want to do it, you've got to ask permission or earn the right to do it. You don't go to some rando and say, gosh, English, you could really use some cheeks. Those things are really falling off your face. Like, it's just not the way it operates. And I think in the consultation, we feel like we've just earned it because they signed up. They didn't sign up. I mean, they signed up to come see you, but they didn't sign up for you to berate them and tell them how horrible their face looks. And I have also been a victim of that. I have dimples, and people want to always get rid of them. I'm like, why would you get rid of, like, have you seen Shirley Temple?
That's what makes you who you are.
And I've had to tell people over and over again for the last 10 years, don't get rid of them. Like, that's really who I am, and I don't want to, but they assume because it's what they want, it's what I want, and they neglect to ask. So I do think there's a part, even for the educated consumer, like, we're in this industry, I'm educated, she was as well. She was like, whoa, like, love that journey for you, but I feel like it's not for me. I think that we get confused about people coming to us, that we've earned the right to start telling them things before we've really emotionally connected with them and figured out, like, what it is that turns them on, or what they're most concerned about in their faces. So I think what you're doing as far as, like, the whole umbrella of it is really special and important. And I want to hear more about your program and how you're going to, like, bring that to people, and how you're even doing it in your own staff. How do you make your staff do it like you do it? Like, how does the whole thing work? Give us the secret sauce.
Yeah. So first off, we want to make sure that we have, long-term planning. We start with the basics of what these patients have, but we do the follow-up visit and see where they are with things and check the temperature. And sometimes it takes additional visits before we can really get back through there. The next step is we have to be clear on our education. Unclear education equals nervous patients, and then that's a trust issue. So making sure that we have the bullet points. I have an outline on our consultation on how to guide. And, it's like choose your own ending book. If you ever read those back in the 80s, I might be too old to even be referencing these. But, if somebody is coming in and they're like, they talk about their upper face, they're like, but these crow's feet aren't that bad, are they? And you might be looking and thinking, oh my gosh, wow, they're huge. But they like them. And we don't want to strip away individuality, because while I love the math that makes faces beautiful, and I 100% use it as a guide for treating people, it's not the blanket way to approach everyone, because then everybody starts to look the same. And where's the fun in that, And so we'll be using emotional intelligence testing to see where we are as far as leadership skills, as far as empathy, listening, and using that from the beginning of the program and then at the end to see where we started and then where we land. Because the goal for Injectors is everybody feels, like you said, they've got to meet these quotas and these numbers, but it's actually the opposite. We want to spend more time. And actually, when we do that, a lot of the times, our patients end up doing quite a bit more than they planned on. Not that we don't, and it's so much less exhausting, because we're relaying information to help meet a goal instead of spinning the wheels and this is going to be great and look at this picture, So, and so it's starting out as a 12-week program, but just like going to the gym, we don't go to the gym, do a workout and get in shape and then we're done. Then there will be the option to stay in with a group of women to flex that emotional intelligence, feedback, role play, do all the things to help empower the injector, because when they, again, can give it to themselves, they're going to be able to give it to other patients.
Well, and in that spectrum there, where does it fall if I'm an owner versus just the injector? And I shouldn't say just, I don't mean that, you know what I mean? If I'm working for someone else and I'm trying to learn how to be a better injector, better consultation, versus I own a practice and I want to help my entire staff to change the way that we do business to meet more of kind of what you're doing right now. Is it different for different people?
Well, so that's a great question. It could be for just business owners, and then they can use this information to teach how they want. I mean, I want to make our specialty better, so there's no gatekeeping here. Or they might, depending on the injectors, individual injector employees may want to enroll in this for their own practice and their own betterment. I mean, 17 years in this, I'm so lucky. I got to train with some OGs in the beginning of my career, and that set me up so solidly for success. Things are different now. There's a lot of noise out there, and it's harder to pick what's real. But these, we all have these industry trainings, but they don't teach these soft skills so much. We're all learning the techniques and the science and how to avoid vascular occlusions and learn cannula techniques, but not necessarily learning how to own the room and carry this energy. So it's for everybody. It's for business owners, because these skills can be used with employees, or these skills can be used with our patients. It is primarily patient driven, though.
Well, and if you're in a sales job somewhere, let's say, like a legitimate salesperson, even your Galderma, your Allergan rep, all these people, they're learning product specific sales, right? They're learning what we would equate for our world, like injectable, how to do the job, right? How to inject the face. They're learning how to sell the products all day long. They do that constantly.
That's
but
right.
They also take tons of classes on soft skills and how to do a cold call and a follow-up call and how to connect with your injector. Are they a high D? Are they a high C? Personality fit, like all Myers-Briggs, all the things. They spend so much time, I mean, I've been there, I've done it, on emotional intelligence and how to connect with your whoever the target is, the injector, the owner, whoever it is. It's no different here. Like at the end of the day, we are selling a thing that we hope people want, but you got to know how to sell it correctly and how to ensure that you're communicating value, et cetera, et cetera. But people get really scared about that word, sales. Like they freak out about it. But to me, selling is adding value. Like to me, it's just the money's a transaction, right? That's what makes it a sale. But still, I'm just adding value that I think you need or that you want. I've got it. We're exchanging what our value here. That's all it is. And I think what you're showing us is there's more to it than just being a great injector, more to it than just like the selling part, like the quota slinging. Right. There's a whole other underbelly that if you've already done the other things really well, go learn this part. This part's this is like the icing on the cake. This is the the part that makes it really elevated as far as the experience. So I love this. When does this program start? Because I want to go enroll in it. When's it kicking off?
You're so awesome. Yeah, so my plan is to roll it out in September. I'm taking a list right now. So you can follow me at the English Aesthetic on Instagram and DM me the word ready if you're ready to improve the efficiency, the retention, and improve your own quality of life in your job.
Well, and I think you'll be at Aesthetic Next too right around this time. So if they don't make it in, definitely find her at Aesthetic Next and get that done. But I think even for Aesthetic Next, you can give that. One of the places that you're going to work or you're going to speak about is I think women who are kind of going through the transition of their life, menopause, perimenopausal.
Yes.
We're kind of aging up in our industry. So many of us started when we were younger. I think I was in my 30-ish, early or late 20s. And now, I'm hitting the zone where things are going downhill fast and in a hurry. The entire industry, if we look at our millennials, we're all sort of in that 40 to 50-ish range right now. That's a different population. We're empowered. We want to do better. We want to have our hormones in balance, all the things that we want to have, that we didn't have maybe 15, 20 years ago. My parents didn't care. My mom didn't care.
Yeah.
What does it look like for you in your practice? Because that's a different kind of practice. And we want to get big lips and big cheeks. And how does your practice dynamic change when you're catering to that audience versus maybe those who are just getting started in aesthetics?
Yeah. I am so glad you brought this up. Thank you so much. So Dana Zeitler and I are doing a talk called Optimization of the Mature Face, because we all see all the beautiful women on social media, and that's just a whole different animal. And that is legit why this program is so important, is because these mature women, to your point, not only are they educated, but we've been around the block. Everybody jokes about when we turn 50 about how I don't give an F anymore, and they don't. And they also don't want to be BS'd, and they want you to shoot it straight, help them understand. And so, my practice has really been evolving that because I'm aging, right? And they say that our practice tends to mature with us. And while that does require a slightly different skill set and the mileage and reps to be able to be transparent with with what's going to be needed to help them achieve their results, it's also the most rewarding, because you get to take them from a lot of my patients have never done anything, and then they may do a whole face, and it's transformative. And a lot of the surgeons online poo-poo what we can do with a middle-aged woman, and I love to compare before and afters. I think that a lot of these women can gain so much from what we have to offer, both technically and from an emotional standpoint, because this is not an easy phase in life, and nobody gives you that head up, or they do. If you were like me, Tiphany, because I can tell you've been in great shape your whole life. I used to think, whatever, I'm in great shape. I'm gonna eat well, and I'm gonna be fine. Man, this is no walk in the park for most of us.
Well, the skin looks like shit when you get older.
I know.
Your hair's falling out. The world's over basically. And I had a child when I was 30, and I don't have any interest in having any more children. Like, I'm kind of in that weird limbo. Many of us are like, we're not going to be a mom again. Our parents are not old enough for us to really have to be a caretaker yet. We're kind of in this one part of our life where we can thrive because our kids can like wipe their own rear end. My kid's old enough to kind of take care of himself. I got to take advantage of these years. Like, from 43 to probably 53 is like my highlight of my life. At that point, I've been told it goes downhill, right? So we're trying to like carpe diem. And I do feel like what you mentioned about surgeons, there are so many great options today. Like if you're a 45-year-old woman looking at your face saying, what do I do? You can start Sculpture today. You can start Radiesse. You can do exosomes, PDR, all. It's amazing what we have at our disposal today versus even 15 years ago, 10 years ago. You can get ahead quickly here if the person can tell you how to do it. But I think we're also saying you have to have facelifts. Like people are getting facelifts at 35 right now. That is lunacy. I can't imagine at 35 being able to afford it, first of all, the disposable income. But I don't think you got to have it yet. There's so many other things you can do first before you go to that, immediately to that. And I think the pendulum it's like a swing here and there. I think right now it's swung in the other direction with surgery, and I'm a little nervous about that. A little bit nervous. So love your thoughts on that, of how you get people to realize early intervention works, by the way, but also that we can stave off the facelift maybe a few more years, into the future if we do a few of these things up front.
Yeah, it's so true. So several touch points here. Lots of good gold here, Tiphany. So first off, a lot of these women in this age group, they have been giving to everybody else their whole life. And this may be the first time they are truly thinking about doing something nice for themselves and helping hold space for that and honoring that and pointing it out to what a big deal it is, and the courtesy and honor that they are giving you to trust you with their face for the first time. It's pretty special. Then the thing about the surgeons is so interesting. So I've been watching this and I started questioning myself. I'm like, am I losing my mind? I mean, I've been doing this a certain way for so long. People have not had trouble. I don't understand the problem with biostimulators, with Sculptra and Radiesse, calcium hydroxyapatite. I can do the generic names, but they've only recently been demonized. And one of my favorite things to point out is when no one is talking about the history of these patients. Do they have autoimmune disease? Because they might not have been a good candidate for that product to start with. And are we saying that this is ruining patients' results? Or are we saying it's taking the surgeon 20 minutes longer in the OR because it might take a slightly more refined technique? Or they're just completely put out because it takes more of their time? Now, I don't know, because I'm not a plastic surgeon, but that's how I look at it, because Radiesse has been around forever, and Sculptra has been around a long time too, and nobody had problems before all this. People still had beautiful results. And there are other issues worse than Sculptra and Radiesse that can hinder a patient's facelift results, smoking, skin quality, that also need to be addressed. So I tell all my patients, I'm like, look, different surgeons have different opinions. If you think you're going to get a facelift in the next few years, you should probably, and who you're doing it with, go check with them so that they don't make you feel like a terrible person because you did this. My medical director, he's been around forever, is a really renowned plastic surgeon in Charlotte. And when I first opened my practice, I called him and I was like, what is all this about? He's not real active on social media. And I was like, what is all this about Radiesse and Sculptra and people having problems with facelifts? And he's like, I don't understand. What's the problem? I was like, exactly. That's all I needed you to say. Perfect. He's like, no, seriously, what is the problem? I don't know what's going on.
Well, here's what I would say to that. This is going to be a controversial hot tea take.
Yeah.
Is if you're going to spend 40, some of these guys are charging 40, 50, 60, whatever, a lot of money.
Hundreds.
If they can't figure out how to do a facelift with a patient who's had Sculptra or Radiesse, and they're charging you that, I would be cautious and cognizant of what their skill set actually is. Look at their before and afters, and I might turn around and walk out of the office. Just saying.
Yeah.
Because all the ones that I know, all the facial plastics that I work with every day, hearing them, they're like, this is absolute lunacy. Who cares? Like, as long as the injector was at least somewhat decent, not even good, just decent, and it's not a chaotic mess in there, we're good to go. And it may not even take more time. It's just like knowing it's there, being aware of it, moving on. I think it's Instagram fodder. I think it's Instagram. It's just like adverse events. I mean, as we all know, I'd say this probably every week, a vascular occlusion is so incredibly rare. But my God, on social media, you think it happened every day. You'd think that everyone got a vascular occlusion at least once a day in their practice, nonstop, because that's what we make it out to be. And I think this whole Sculptra Radiesse thing in the face is a similar thing. It's like, it's a reason to put a post out there, to do a TikTok, to do an Instagram, reel, whatever it is. And I just think it's absolutely silly. And it's hurting the injectable market because people are coming in saying, gosh, I want to get a facelift at some point in my future. I can't get this done today. Well, my God, that's 10 years away. And by the way, it wouldn't even matter. So I think we're only hurting ourselves to perpetuate this, myth. And I'm sure I'll get some hate mail for this, but I just think it's not real. And I think if you're good enough, if you're worth your salt, you don't need to worry about it. If you're a surgeon who's spreading that rumor. I think you need to look at your own skill set, put the mirror up and kind of reevaluate your skills. But that's just my hot take.
Oh, I am. We are speaking the same language. I mean, I've heard a very prominent injector, and I loved what she said. She was like, one of these surgeons that's very big on Instagram that's demonizing having facelifts with these. She's like, I deal with his complications. It's like anybody that's doing this for a living, that's acting like people are incompetent because they have adverse events is misinformed, because if you don't know you're having adverse events, you haven't created the trust or the safety for your patient to come back and tell you, And I guess that's another part of this is the reason that this using our emotional intelligence and creating that trust and safety is you want them to be able to come back and say, hey, I'm having this problem. What do you think about this? And that's very open door. But the whole surgery thing is, you got to have an ego to be able to be in medicine, but sometimes when it's outweighed,
But you think if you have an ego,
game, not the player.
You think if you had an ego, you'd be like, oh, give me anything. Jason Bloom, I don't know if you know who he is, but I love him dearly. And one day he said, Tiffany, if I had a spoon and a knife, I could do a facelift. Like, I have skills. I don't care what you give me. I'll figure it out. And he probably, frankly, really could. I mean, he's like, I don't, it doesn't have to be a perfect environment for me. Like, I don't need it to be like, in the middle of a Xanadu. I'll figure this out on my own, So I just think there's a part of it that you gotta think through that. But I do love it. One of the things you mentioned in your sort of pre-questionnaires about the black and white of the industry right now. I'm a huge believer that we have to have professional conduct. And I see on Instagram all too often that we call each other out, that we might not say their name, but it's apparent who they're talking about, or this irks me, that irks me. And I think we're in this weird state where people's Instagram following is both another injector and a patient. And so we're mixing our message. So the injector who is behind the scenes as the influencer is like saying adverse events or all these different things geared toward the injector. But they also have, 85,000 patients watching their Instagram. And then so the patients are now saying, these are real things, these are problems, these are issues. And it's kind of a hot mess. So how do we get to the place where we think about professional conduct from a sense of what we're putting out on social media, or how we conduct ourselves in front of our patients, in front of our colleagues? I just think there's a gap right now. And you seem to be very high with your EI. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, such a great point. And we have to be the change we want to see in the world. So we can't, there was one plastic surgeon, I did a funny post on it because he demonized Sculptra and was like, oh yeah, and by the way, your face is going to be totally jacked up. If you keep using Sculptra, it's going to stretch your skin. And I was like, man, I wish I hadn't put all the Sculptra in my face. I mean, I'm pretty jacked up, But as far as like marrying the injector audience to the patient audience. So I actually just made a ton of content the other day, and I actually edited a lot of what I did from like discussing money and revenue, because I'm like, I sleep well at night, and that's my primary goal on what I need to do. We can talk about value and all of that without having to always talk about the nitty-gritty of business. Now, when we talk about the scary things, we can use data. We can use incidents of events. Hey, I had this thing happen today and it's never happened to me before, or it's happened a million times. Just being honest and transparent, because everybody in this industry that's real is going to explain that to you, And I think it's a fine line. I don't have a perfect answer as far as how we are going to put that out there, other than every time we create content about what can go wrong, is to think that our patients are also watching and listening, and they're watching how we behave and treat other people about that. And we cannot have this energy of bashing calling specific people out, because then you just look like you're in high school, frankly.
Well, and can you imagine a cardiologist sitting around bashing another cardiologist on his Instagram? Like, never. He's like, I'm above that. I don't need this. To me, that's part of it too. If we want to be considered as a real specialty, like, we're above that. That's the fray that you see in a beauty salon or a nail salon or a massage parlor. If we don't want to be those things, then don't be those things. I think there's a point where we're going to have to decide what we really want to become as an industry. If we want to be part of that, like, sort of cesspool of back and forth, great, be that. But then don't come out and claim you want to be this truly medical professional with the specialty that's so important and so protected, because you can't really be both things. I mean, you just don't see in regular medicine, you don't see an oncologist on Instagram bashing another oncologist. Like, I'm over here trying to save lives, people. Like, I don't have time for that. I think it's a difference of mentality that we say one thing and we do another. Our conduct doesn't often lend itself to what we want our credence to be. And I think we've got to figure out what the differences are there. And it does make me crazy because I think about it a lot. We are a very retail medicine based business. We all know that it is retail based, but I'm trying to figure out what that special, what is that, that sort of XY point? What is that perfect little dot in the middle that says we can be enough of retail, but we also have to be enough of medicine where no one gets left out and no one gets talked down to, but we also still communicate that you got to buy from us, right? That we're still selling something here. And I don't know what the answer is, but I'm curious if anyone else knows. DM me, let me know.
Yeah, I know, right? But well, I mean, I think just being authentic alone is a huge brand differentiator. I mean, and the thing is that the reality is what we do is based on perception. It's a perception game. And by being our own bright light, we empower other people to be their own bright light. And as far as what do you need? Well, tell me your goals and I'm going to help you get there. When we come from that place of service, of genuinely wanting to serve, people feel that. They just do. And if you don't believe it, then that's, okay, fine. But when like I said, leaning into it, and what I mean by that is not focusing on the numbers. People would probably freak out if they knew that, like, building my 7-figure business my first year, I was probably booked out less. In fact, I've never been booked out more than 2 weeks. And I probably am booked between 45 and 80% most of the time. And that's my schedule and that's my life. And when it's higher than that, then I start to worry about the quality of the visits with the patients. And so to your point, as far as like what people need, I should have started with this, but my mother actually got lip implants back in the 90s. Now, she says she would do things over again, but to me, she was a beautiful woman. And the same guy that I chaperoned with, he exploited her insecurity. And instead of empowering her by, helping guide her, it was like, oh yeah, hey, let's throw these lip implants here. And they took away some of her beauty. And when we are coming from a place of selling, we are not serving the patient. Therefore, we actually aren't even representing ourselves well. So when we come from that place of what will be best for the person, even if they don't agree with us, if we believe in our heart of hearts that is not what they need, then everything just works out. It does. And people are like, you can't run your business like that. And I poo-pooed it for a while too. I was like, I don't think anybody wants to learn how to do these consults. It's different. It's not what most people do. But then I thought, well, actually, I made a killer business in the first year. Why wouldn't they want to know, But as far as the skincare goes, it's like, you're investing this much money on your face. Well, this is how you create a nice canvas for those products to land. So when we come from that educational service, I want you to have what you want, then it's just incorporating the need.
Well, I think it's a big reason that we've looked at all this wellness and functional medicine coming in is like, if their face, if I maxed out what they need on the face and I have to still sell something, right? I've still got to keep the business open. What else can I do? And I think that's where everyone needs wellness. I mean, we all need to have our hormones optimized and peptide, all the things that everyone's doing. And I do think it's a great opportunity for you. If you're in a practice, it's like we do a full plan for everyone. Like our people are on maintenance now. We've done the things. If you've got to keep making money, you're going to have to figure out another opportunity for that because you don't want to put in a lip implant if no one needs it, right? You don't want to do the things people don't need. You got to figure out another avenue. So I do think there's an opportunity right now with wellness we haven't had before where you can do things people actually need that don't change the face because you're just trying to pump in more filler, which, as you know, we didn't have that 10 years ago. It was like, you just got to get more filler. We started doing hands and chest and knees and elbows and bellies, and we inject everything now because we got to keep selling some sculpture. But I think, we kind of went off the deep end. Some of those things are great. Yes, should you have knees, elbow, whatever? Yes, in some cases, for sure. But there are other things that I might want to spend money on now that we have them that help me enhance my overall quality of life. So I think it's an interesting time in our history. We'll look back in 10 years at this moment and say, gosh, we didn't know XYZ then. And we'll be shocked. We'll be like, oh, how can we have ever done that? We're crazy. I look at 10 years ago and say, oh my God, how did we inject cheeks that way? Like, I mean, thank goodness we learned more because we were having shelves out. Marge Simpson had reared her ugly head, but we know better now. Know better, do better. But I do want to talk about your podcast. You're launching, I think it's the Curated Confidence or Confidence Curated very soon.
The Curated Confidence.
Curated Confidence, yes, thank you. It's coming up soon. And I think, joining the podcast ranks is a lot of fun, and you get to have an audience conversation that you don't get to have, quick and dirty on Instagram and those 90-second reels. So give us an idea what the podcast is going to be about and who it's geared for or geared to and what we can learn from you.
Yeah, this is my gift. This is my way of honoring what we do in our clinic every day, and what I've been also learning about and working on with other fellow entrepreneurs, whether it's in Kaylee's group or I've coached with Dan Martell, I've coached with Alex Hormozy, and taking all of these concepts to, what is it that we all need? Because the reality is all entrepreneurs, we're all in the same boat. Even people that are doing 8-figure businesses, 9-figure businesses, they're just new levels, new devils. And so how can we talk about the confidence, the mindset that we need to be able to not only succeed, but really crush it in our life, and how beauty and aesthetics plays a role in that, because all of it is about how we're showing up in the world. To me, aesthetics is no different than choosing a brand of clothing, a type of car we drive, or any of that. And I think it's unfortunate that it's been stereotyped into something that it's not, or doesn't have to be, at least. And how we can use that as a tool to level up. And then also how mindset helps us move past belief barriers that are either holding us back, or having us make up stories about treatments that might benefit us that we think we're scared of, whatever it is. So I'm just super pumped to have a platform and the blessing to be able to talk about these things and share insight with other awesome injectors, business owners, and I'm really excited for what we're building.
Yeah, it's, first of all, you mentioned 2 great names there, Dan Martell, Alex Hormozy. Like those are the names that you want to learn from if you're a person in business, period. They're incredibly intelligent. Dan Martell, I've listened to probably a million things he's done. I mean, he's just such a brilliant guy. And I understand completely what you're saying about different levels, different devils. When you have one person working for you, it's the same. It's like children. 1 is 1, 2 is a million. Like you don't realize that next level is going to be insanely different. If you crushed it with 1 location, but you go to 2, it's not just like you just doubled. I mean, you exponentially change your business. Going from 2 to 3, my God, you might as well, you need a nap. It's too much.
Yeah,
like as you grow, there is not this like linear, or this correlated line that goes from, point A to point B. It is all over the place. It's hills and valleys, peaks and troughs. And
that's right.
And people who are not in it don't know how it feels. And I think what you're offering is like, how it feels. You're in it every day. Communicating that to say, you're not alone. I'm with you. I'm feeling it too. Let's think about how we get through this together, or things I've done that can help you understand, your next step. I think it's such a blessing to your audience. I think it's going to be, I'm excited to tune in for sure.
Thank you. I know, I'm so excited too. Yeah. I want to use this to spread more good in the world. And, as I was saying, as entrepreneurs, it can be a lonely space sometimes. So to try to open that up, and between Kaylee and Dan, I mean, I called her in near tears after my conference with him, because it started sobbing with her at a leadership conference with her, and then to an Empire Builder thing with Dan Martell last month, where I was like, oh my gosh, this is true. It's actually real. You can still be a good person and freaking crush it. You don't have to compromise your values. You don't have to sell snake oil. You don't have to BS anybody. You can actually do this. You just have to believe it. And that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part, is believing in yourself. And I can't wait to help other people do that. And then take the tools, the fruits from all of this. And my goal is to create a service for disadvantaged young ladies who are at risk for getting in trouble, and coming up with some sort of mentorship program for them. So we've got big dreams over here, big things going on.
Well, I love it. I love a purpose-driven mission. And I think just to what you were doing when you were, fresh out of high school as an MA, helping in the surgery office, look where it pushed you to have a career in this amazing industry. You're growing a huge business, helping others. Like, it just takes one, I think, experience in your life to define sort of where you're going to go when you grow up, So I think that's an awesome mission. But I do want to mention, we had, I don't know if you know Alex, I'm sorry, not Alex, Adam Haroon on a few weeks ago talking about marketing. He's like, get outside the industry. I think this is the same idea. When you go hear Dan Martell speak, it's not about aesthetics. Like, he could give 2 shits about aesthetics. He's like, how do you build a great business? And so I think if you're a person looking at this saying, gosh, English has all these insights, where does she get all this information? She's going outside the industry, looking at people who run a great business anywhere. Like, a business is a business is a business. Like, of course we have a nuance thing here, but learning what the DNA of a business looks like, and how to assess and define what you want, how to diagnose issues, the levels and the devils, as you mentioned. That is a skill set that transcends all industry. Go do the work. Go out and learn from people who are doing it brilliantly, and then bring that back to us, because we want to learn too. Like, the fact that you've already done the work, I can't wait to hear what you have to say on your podcast, because I want to know what you're hearing when you're out there talking to people like Alex or Dan. Like, I want to hear those little insights. So I just think if you're not doing that today and you're a person like, I'm struggling, I don't know where I fit in, I can't figure out my place in the, in the industry, go outside the industry. The best way to find your place here is to go out of here and learn and then come back and kind of plant your flag. So I think I love what you're doing, and I'm excited to see the next level of your career. But I will see you in September. Give us an idea of what you're going to be doing in aesthetic next. We know you had the class about the mature face. What else are you doing?
Yep. Yeah, so optimization of the mature face, and then I'm doing a class on don't laser the melanoma. So earlier in my career, I was the medical director clearing patients for laser treatments, and we had a couple of people that were diagnosed with melanoma that had been lasered. And I was like, it's such an important thing to know how to identify a melanoma, or if you can't identify one, to know when to send it, when to get it looked at. So I'm excited to teach that class. It's a super important thing, because I had my first month in business, had a woman call me. She's like, I've got this pigmented spot on my face, but this lady's tried to microneedle it off for me. Should I bleach it? What should I do? And I was like, well, I don't know, because I haven't seen it. Why don't you come on in, swing by, and we peeped at it. And I knew immediately it was a melanoma. I was like, before we do anything, why don't we get you in to get a biopsy? She's like, I've got an appointment in 3 months. I'm like, no, I'll help you get in if you can't. And they got her in faster. But yeah, it's a melanoma. She comes to all my events, brings me flowers, and but and it's not just her. Even at the dermatology office, we've had spots that tend to come back. So I want to take everything I've learned to share to help save a life in aesthetics.
Well, and gosh, what a great way to end this, that even in the midst of all of the empowerment and learning about how to run a great business and selling, at the end of the day, you're still a medical professional, and your duty is help patients to be healthy and to survive and to live through things like melanoma, and to be educated enough to say, wait a minute, this is not a great choice. We need to get this to somebody else who can help you, biopsy, whatever those things are. I think we do forget sometimes, English. I think we do forget sometimes that at the end of the day, people in that chair give you more time than they give anybody else. They don't see their PC as long as they see you, even their gynecologist. They give you more time than any other person in their life as a medical professional, which is a lot of responsibility for you. But they don't go anywhere else for an hour for a consult. They don't go see their derm for an hour. You know that. They see their derm for like 6.5 minutes, maybe on a really good day.
Exactly.
You get the most of their time. And so there is a burden that I think you bear in this industry, that you're kind of their therapist, but you're also their medical person from really A to Z, even though things that you're definitely not maybe qualified to look at and assess, but that's not your specialty. You're still the girl. Like you're the gal in charge. And I think you have to really take that into consideration as you talk to people, that they expect you to be kind of their be all, know all, do all. And so I think that's just a lot to take in. But I love that you're doing that course. I think devices are misunderstood. Lasers are for sure misunderstood. And I think this is such a big gap for the industry. So I'm excited to see both of your sessions. And give us an idea where to find you for your upcoming podcast. I'm guessing it'll be on Apple and Spotify, but also for your course that you're about to launch, and just how to follow you in general.
Yeah, so the Curated Confidence, it'll be on Apple and Spotify. It should be pretty much everywhere. We're going to be everywhere. And then, but yeah, so the Curated Confidence will be everywhere. The Empowered Injector is going to launch towards the end of September. And you can DM me ready at the English Aesthetic on Instagram. I'm also English Black PA on Facebook. So hope to see you guys around. And thanks for your time. Thanks for having me.
Well, for sure. I'll put all that in the comments as well. And go check out her website too. It's beautiful. And you got a lot going on, sister. So congratulations on your success and all that you're doing. And keep fighting the good fight for all of us. We appreciate it. I think you're going to make a huge difference in our industry. So we appreciate that around here. And I can't wait to tune into your podcast very soon. So congratulations.
Thanks, girl. I appreciate you having me. And I love spending time with you. Thanks, Tiphany.
Well, you're welcome. And I'll see the rest of you guys back next week for another For the Record. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to another episode of For the Record. This podcast is not intended to provide legal or medical advice. It's for entertainment, education, and information purposes only. For more information on this week's guest or to get started with Aesthetic Record, email us at info@aestheticrecord.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more fresh perspectives on disrupting the status quo and surviving in the aesthetics industry.